Welcome to this video. We'll be discussing the string data type and its associated functions in Python in more details. We have seen the string data type before. In order to encode a string value in Python, we need to enclose this value in either one quote or two quotes. Once again, whether we start with a quote or two quotes, it doesn't change the actual value we're storing as long as we're consistent. Now the reason we have one quote or double quote is because many often we want to have a quote within the string. So this gives us the option of using the opposite quote if a quote from the opposite type is in the string. For instance, if I want to store the string, it's a good day, I will need to start with double quote and end with double quote simply because there is one single quote in the string. If this has been a string that starts with one quote, you notice that the other quote will be looked at as the end of the string, and I will have a problem here. Similarly, if I have a two quote in my string, for instance, he said goodbye, I need to start with a single quote because if I start with a two quote, I will have an issue and this double quote will be interpreted at the end of the string. Okay, indeed in Python there is a third way to define a string using a triple quote. A triple quote indicates a multi-line string. So when we define a string and if we have a string value, we cannot have a new line character. If we have a new line character, it's the end of the statement in Python. So this is not a valid Python code because not only this value it ended abruptly, but this is also not a valid Python statement either. So if we want to have multiple lines, we can use a multi-line string, and the multi-line string starts with three quotes and ends with three quotes. And in a multi-line string, we can have we can hit enter many times as if we're writing a paragraph. So if I do print multi-line here, I will get the first line, 1, 2, 3, and the last line. Let's talk about some of the functions in the string data type. This type has many functions indeed, and most of these functions are used to format or to convert the string. For instance, if I hit tab, I have a list of all of the functions in the string type, and there are plenty of them. Let's take a look at some of them. The function upper converts the string to an uppercase. The function lower converts the string to a lowercase. The function title converts the string to a title case, and the function capitalizes the first word in the string. Swap case will swap the case in the string. Now all of these functions and all functions in the string data type do not have side effects, meaning even if I call fox.upper, the value of fox did not change. This function basically returned a new string value that it's up to me to store in another variable if I wish to. But the value of the original string variable did not change. Let's take a look at some of the other functions used to format strings. A very useful function is called the function strip. This basically strips the string from leading and trailing white spaces. For instance, this string has leading and trailing white spaces. Strip will strip these white spaces. This is often the case if the string is read or parsed from another source. Many often we end up having some white spaces in the beginning or in the end or in both. So we can use the function strip to get rid of them. The function strip also takes an optional parameter, which is the character we want to strip. By default, it strips white space, but we can strip other characters, such as in this example, stripping the character 0. Now the function strip has two other similar functions, left strip and right strip, and left strip only strips from the left, right strip strips only from the right. So in this example here, let's take a look at this example. If I add a 0 here, if I strip 0, I'm going to strip in both right and left, which is probably not what I want to do, because zeros in the left do not change the value of the number, but a 0 from the right surely does. So here I want to left strip the string from its leading zeros, and I keep the right ones. Right strip will strip the one in the right and keeps the one from the left. There are two functions to find text in a string: the function find and the function index. Both of them will return the position of the substring in this string. So for instance, if I have this string, if I do find fox, I'm going to get 16 because fox starts from character 16. So if you count the number of characters here starting from 0, f will be character number 16. Similarly, index is giving exactly the same result. The difference in between find and index is when they do not find a match. If find doesn't find a match, it returns -1. So -1 is used as a special value that we can test for then for course correction if we don't find this substring. Index, on the other hand, will not return anything. It will basically just raise an error. Raising an error also gives the programmer an opportunity to deal with that error. This is something we will see when we look at control flow in Python, how to deal with errors. So then the choice here boils down to whether we want to look at the result of find and deal with the special value of -1, or just have some code that corrects that error because the substring is not found. There are two useful functions, starts with and end with. Those functions return a boolean instead of returning a position, and basically it will be true or false depending on whether a function, the string starts with or ends with a certain character or certain string. The function replace replaces the string with a replacement string in the original one. So if I want to replace brown with red, I can do line.replace brown and red, and instead of the quick brown fox, I will get the quick red fox here. If I replace O with 2 dashes, I get 2 dashes instead of O in this string. Finally, I want to talk about splitting string. Splitting string is a very common operation because many often we want to break the string into basic constituents such as sentences and words in many text analytics tasks. The go-to function here is a function called split. Split basically a function that splits a string and it will return a list of resulting smaller strings. For instance, if I do line.split, I'm going to get the words of that line in a list. Let's take a look at line again. If I do line.split, I'm going to get a list containing each one of the words in the string. Now by default, split splits around white space. So it's going to split whenever it finds a white space in the string itself. And this is usually the most common scenario. We want to split around white spaces. Many often we have a string that contains many sentences, a multi-line string, for instance, in this case. If we want to split these two sentences so that each line shows in a string, we can use the function splitlines, and the function splitlines will split around new lines. So we will have each line in our string as an item in this resulting list. The opposite operation of splitting is called joining. Joining basically joins strings in a list to form one big string. For instance, if I have the list of 1, 2, 3 as strings, if I do -- dot join 1, 2, 3, I will get one string which is 1 dash dash 2 dash dash and then 3. So similarly, if you take a look at this operation line.split, if I do space dot join line.split, I'm basically putting back the words together in a sentence. I will get the line back again because I joined them with a white space. If I want to reconstruct this multi-line string from its constituents, I need to join this list of string with a new line. Now I cannot hit enter here. That doesn't work because this ends the string. So I either need to use a multi-string, so I can do 3 3 3 3 quotes, oops, have an extra one, and this will be the enter character, as you can see here, just one line. Or I can use a special character to indicate a new line. Because hitting enter is a special character, there is a special escape sequence that encodes this character, and the special sequence is \n. We've seen escape characters before in Markdown when we wanted to escape the $sign because the $sign has a special meaning. Similarly here, to encode some special meaning characters such as new line, we can use escape sequences. For enter, it's \n. So I can do \n join and then the list of the string, and I can put that string together again in one string. Now, one of the nuances of the function split is that we can also specify the delimiter in which the function operates. By default, it's splitting around white spaces, but we can do something different. I can split my line, for instance, around let's say O in this case. And I will get the quick BR because there is an O here, and then WNF. Of course, the O disappears because it's the delimiter, and then X jumped space because there is an O here, VER a lazy D, and then G at the end. Of course, this is a meaningless example, but it becomes very, very meaningful when we have a string that has components joined together in a special characters. For instance, let's say you have a certain date, 04, for instance, 09. If you want to have access to the year, month, and day, you can do split and provide a dash as a delimiter, and this will give you these constituents in a list. Finally, let's talk about formatting string. This is something we have seen before in the exercises of the last lecture. We can concatenate strings together, but if the value is not string, we have to force convert it to a string. A better way to do it is by using formatted strings. And there are two ways of doing this. Either by calling the function format and using a string template here, and we have a placeholders for whatever we're formatting, and we count them from 0. So I want to format the value of pi 0 and then pass in pi here. In Python 3.6 onwards, we have a special kind of a string called formatted string. The difference here is that I start with an F and type in whatever the string is, and I can place the variables here in curly brackets. The formatted string also can receive a special directive to specify the format. For instance, if I want to specify how many decimal points I want to have, I can use the special formatting directives.